Hi everyone, welcome to the visual guide for the Cuff of the Sun Savage. This is the first Savage encounter made available by patch 3.2 Gears of Change. While this encounter may seem hectic at first, with practice and the use of this guide, you'll be the one twinkling his dinks in no time. My name is Ms. Tech and I'll be your raid guide. The general backbone of this fight is essentially the same as normal, and since you probably have a strong handle on that encounter already, this guide will walk you through the encounter and highlight the changes you will have to face. The most obvious change is the inclusion of all 4 syringes and the respective mechanics. The green goo removes a specific debuff from a player and applies a regen on them. The blue goo allows the player to turn invisible, dropping any fixates. The red and purple goo remain unchanged. All of these puddles will be used to handle specific mechanics. If the boss or any ad touches any of these puddles, they will gain damage up buffs, which should obviously be avoided. Anytime a player steps into a puddle, they will gain the overgulp debuff, which begins with a set timer. The next time they step into a puddle, the base timer of their debuff will decrease. Should this debuff fall off, which may happen near the end of the encounter, the player will be debuffed with Grumbly Gut, which applies a heavy and really spicy dot. At this point, the player will no longer be able to use any of the goop puddles. To avoid this, we have players keep an eye out on their debuff and enter puddles when their debuff timers get low, near the end of the fight, refreshing their timers and saving healers the headache of having to heal them through that extra damage. High raid damage will also ensure you will kill the boss far before the debuffs falling off will become a problem. The encounter begins the same, with Twinkledinks immediately enter his giant form and beginning to stack headache on the main tank. When the primary tank gets concussed, the boss will either cast Gob Straight, the tank buster and knockback you're familiar with from normal mode, or Gob Cut, damage that must be shared by the entire group. The concussed tank cannot be hit by either of these abilities or they will die. As such, the second tank needs to provoke as soon as that 4 stack of headache hits, ensuring that whatever form the tank buster takes, it's on them. Cooldowns are necessary even when stacking to minimize damage. After this first round, Gob Cut and Gob Straight will alternate with each concussion and tank swap, and tanks will be able to plan accordingly. If the boss is still above 90% at this time, he will cast Prey on a random player. This player has a short amount of time to run the hell away before the boss Gob Rushes them. Gob Rush does damage based on proximity, and if the player takes any damage from this rush, no matter how small, they will be debuffed with damage down. To counter this, the player should run to the opposite end of the platform while also getting shielded. This will ensure that the little damage done by Gob Rush will be soaked by the shield, making sure they never get the debuff. If your damage is high enough, you can push Twinkledinks back into his small form and essentially skip this first Prey Rush combo. Once the boss has returned to his normal form, we drag him to the northeast corner, in preparation for the first set of ads. During this time, 2 GLUPGLOOPs will target 2 players. These players should move away and drop their AoE puddles along the edges of the arena, away from the raid and ad spawns. Next up, 2 Glass-Eyed Cobra ads will spawn in the northeast and southeast. These ads will target random players and throw poison at them, debuffing them and anyone around them with anticoagulant. This debuff will slowly tick up over time and eventually kill its victim at 8 stacks. Any players affected by this debuff will need to use the green puddle to remove it before they die. These cobras also cast Steel Scales, increasing their damage. To minimize the number of players affected by this, we use a combination of high damage and stuns to burn down and stunlock the ads before they apply too many debuffs on the raid. Shortly after these ads spawn, healers will have to deal with the first shock therapy. These will happen at intervals throughout the fight, and players should be topped off as necessary. Next up, the assigned monkey player is going to have to deal with smart bombs with one added mechanic. These spike bombs will spawn throughout the fight, coinciding with each bombs away and boost casts. These bombs explode in a plus shape with column blasts that traverse the length of the platform. To avoid these, players must never be in line with a spike bomb. The assigned monkey player will only have to deal with 2 smart bombs each bombs away cast. For the first one spike bomb will also spawn in one of the 4 corners of the platform. The raid will have to move to the opposite corner to avoid the spike bomb blast. This forces the monkey player to punt all smart bombs towards the corner with a single spike bomb before returning to the raid to avoid the blast. Shortly after, Twinkledinks will again turn big and begin casting boost. All players should immediately run to the purple and change into birds to avoid the boost damage. At the same time, 4 spike bombs will drop in a diagonal line in a random order, with the first bomb always dropping in a corner. These bombs will explode in the same order they drop, and reminiscent of Titan's bombs, the raid will wait by the first spike bomb until it explodes, and then move into the safe area to wait out the rest of the explosions. Up Up next, a player will be marked up for prey. Since we prefer to keep the boss near the south side of the platform in preparation for the next set of mechanics, we have our prey target run to that side if the boss isn't already there. Healers make sure this player has some type of shield to avoid them getting debuffed. All other players need to ensure they are out of the gob rush path. Immediately after rushing the prey target, Twinkledinks will face a random player and cast Gob Hook, a massive AoE frontal that will absolutely kill anyone caught in front of him. To avoid this, players will run after Twinkledinks when he rushes the prey target, and once he's found his target, immediately get behind him to avoid the AoE. Next up, he'll begin stacking debuffs on the tank, and another tank swap will occur. Cooldown through the tank buster, stacking in if necessary, before the boss returns to his small form. At this point, he will summon the Gobbledygroper ad, which will tether and fixate on a random player. As soon as this happens, this player needs to step into the blue puddle to remove the tether. This will also allow the off tank to grab the ad and face it away from the raid. This ad has a spicy fire breath and should be destroyed as soon as possible. Next, a player will be marked for GLUPGLOOP and should drop their puddle on the edge out of the way of the raid. Bombs Away will cast again, and the monkey player should be ready for the next round of smart bombs. This time, 2 spike bombs will drop. The first will drop in a random corner, and after a short time, the second will drop in the opposite corner. Because of the 2 spike bombs, the raid's only safe zone here is in the corner of the first spike bomb after it explodes. This means the monkey suit player will be punting all smart bombs opposite the corner where the first spike bomb drops. The raid will hang out by the first spike bomb until it explodes, then move into that corner to avoid the second spike bomb and the smart bomb blasts. At this point, Twinkledinks will cast 5 shock therapies in a row. This is essentially a time for unobstructed damage dealing, but healers will need to be careful and keep everyone topped off before each cast. Once this completes, Twinkledinks will turn big again. Again, players should immediately run to the purple and turn into birds before the next boost damage begins. This round will drop 3 spike bombs in a random pattern that can be tricky to quickly recognize. The best way to quickly discern where the safe zone is to imagine the room divided into 4 rows and 4 columns. No matter what the orientation is, there will always be 1 column and 1 row that has no bomb. You'll be waiting in bird form for the spike bombs to drop, and as soon as they do, scan the room lengthwise and find the safe column. Then, as you make your way to that area, scan the other side until you find the safe row. Stand in that safe zone to avoid death. Some patterns are easier than others, but they all follow the same rule. Once the spike bombs clear, the boss will cast Gob Cut and 2 preys. The first player to be marked for prey will immediately run to the opposite corner. Immediately after, the main tank will be marked for Gob Cut, which should be shared with the group. During this time, the second prey marker will also pop up, but this player will wait to soak Gob Cut before moving into the close corner for the second Gob Rush. While the Gob Rushes happen, all other players need to make sure they're not in the path for either. After the second Gob Rush, everyone needs to be ready to run behind him once he chooses his target for Gob Hook. Soon after, another tank swap and tank buster, and Twinkledinks returns to his small form. Shortly after this transformation, the next set of ads will spawn. This time, a Minotaur will spawn in the northwest, which should be immediately picked up by the off tank. This has basic Minotaur abilities you've encountered before, and be sure to avoid his swipe as necessary. The Minotaur will also consume any nearby ads, buffing his damage, and it's imperative to keep him away from the pigs that also spawn during this time. In the northeast corner, a group of Yorn pigs will spawn. These will probably immediately run to the group attracted to the healers. Seconds after these 2 ad sets spawn, 2 more ads will spawn in the southwest and southeast corners. Both of these goblins toss bombs at the raid, which will deal minimal splash damage to players. They also both have a version of petrifaction called Oogle that must be avoided by turning your character around. The raid will have to burn both of these down as fast as possible to avoid any complications with Oogle. The use of Mage Limit Break here is helpful. While that is happening, the off tank will have moved the Minotaur to the northeast corner in anticipation for the next set of ads. Since the Minotaur has a ridiculous amount of health, it's not feasible to attempt to burn him down. Instead, we will allow him to eat the next glass-eyed cobra that spawns in the northeast corner. This will afflict him with Anticoagulant, the debuff that will eventually kill him once it reaches 8 stacks. Healers take note. When he consumes the cobra, he will cast Disorienting Groan, which not only gives him a damage up buff, but does some extra raid-wide damage. When the cobra spawns, another set of pigs will also spawn in the northwest corner. These can be AoE down as necessary once they reach the group. Shortly after the Minotaur dies, Twinkledinks will spam another 5 shock therapies in a row. Healers be ready with those shields and heals. This is also an excellent time for everyone to double check their overgulp stacks and refresh as necessary. After the last shock therapy goes out, a glassy-eyed Shapti will spawn in the southeast corner. This ad has a critical strikes buff that makes all all of its attacks crit. The off tank should grab this as soon as possible, and the use of awareness here is highly valuable. Seconds after, the boss will enter his big form and begin to stack headache on the main tank. Now, at this point, the boss may either be close to death or not close enough that you want to risk leaving the Shabti up. If you're close enough to kill the boss before the next tank buster, I would recommend ignoring the Shabti and burning down the boss. If you'll have to deal with the Shabti, it needs to die before the tank buster occurs so that the tank can freely provoke and handle the tank buster appropriately. There is another tethered ad spawn, a GLUPGLOOP, and one more bombs away cast before the Hardened Rage. Unfortunately, I don't have footage of the rest of the encounter, and most groups should have no trouble killing the boss long before this time. The best advice I can give towards optimizing damage is to bait the praise in specific areas and keeping the boss to the south of the platform after the first bombs away cast. This will set you up to handle the upcoming mechanics with very little movement, allowing you to quickly return to the boss and continuing burning him down. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Up next, we'll head into the Cuff of the Father Savage. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.